I personally have been playing this game for about 2 years now, but I've had a credit card in my name since 2019 when I first opened my very first card, the Bank of America Customized Cash Rewards credit card. But I didn't get into the points and miles and optimizing cash back hobby, if you will, until about mid to late 2022. And since then, I've gone on to amass a relatively large collection of 13 credit cards. It's a lot for me. I've seen people with more than twice or three times the amount of cards I have here on YouTube, but for me, 13 is a lot, especially at age 23, in my opinion, with about 5.5 years of credit history now. And I will say that this is already way beyond the amount of cards that the average American holds. With all of that in mind, here are 7 things that I've learned as a 23-year-old with 13 credit cards. The first thing that I've learned right out of the gate is credit card rewards are amazing, but you need to pick what is right for you. I think so many of us get caught up with the whole points scheme, and aspirational travel is just that. It's something that we can aspire to do, but it's not necessarily going to be something that we are going to be embarking on every single year. For me personally, I do travel like 10 times a year now, which is kind of crazy to even think about. But before this year, I didn't do that. I traveled a few times a year maximum. My point is here for the average person, might be better off just doing a hybrid setup so that you are able to earn some points, take a trip maybe once a year. Nothing too fancy, but hey, you could get economy class international tickets taken care of. These are some things that I just think that I need to keep in mind. For me, this is really speaking to like my last year of college self. I didn't have the opportunity to travel all the time, right? And that's what really made me buy into the Chase trifecta at the time. I was like, I'm gonna go take all these points that I'm earning. I'm gonna go and use them and take a free adventure throughout Europe and make up for all that cash that I spent while I was living abroad and not using points. Sounded great at the time. One thing I've learned is I need to decide whether I want to go simple cash back, go to travel, do a hybrid setup. I'm a big fan of the hybrid setup and I've made videos on this in the past, and so that's kind of where I landed. I also need to keep in mind that 13 credit cards is more than the average American has, and not everyone's gonna want to have a card in like 5 different ecosystems. Like I have cards with Chase, American Express, Wells Fargo, Bilt. So not Wells Fargo rewards, but Bilt. I have Capital One, I have Bank of America. It's a whole thing. I know that's a difficult thing to manage sometimes, and so I'm gonna get more into this in just a minute. The second thing that I've realized in the game is that these credit cards are an addiction. There, I said it, but they're not bad addiction. At least not like being addicted to credit cards in the sense that you max them out and you see them as free money. Like that's not the case. I see these cards as like a really easy way to get gratification, if that makes sense. It's kind of a strange thing to say. Like this piece of metal / plastic gives me points and that gives me joy. But it does. It's a hobby. There are some things that I just do want to keep in mind, that I try to keep in mind, and that I would hope you would as well. And the first one is don't spend too much to reach a bonus, or I should say don't overspend to reach a really large sign-up bonus for something like the Chase Ink cards or like a business American Express charge card or whatever. Like those can offer really awesome sign-up bonuses and folks really like them, but you gotta make sure you have the spend to back it up. And along those same lines, it's okay to take a break from bonus hunting. This is something that I really struggle with. I made a couple videos back now, where I was talking about how I just really wanted to get another bonus on a card before I drop below 524 and I can implement the strategy that I have for the rest of the year. But I think I'm just going to use this time to relax. And that's something that I recently learned, and it's why I wanted to include it in this video today. And then the final thought that I have for this thing that I've learned is it's always important to have a strategy for your sign-up bonuses that you're applying for, and you want to make sure that you have at least a rough idea of how you're going to use them in mind before you go and apply for the card. An example of this is I applied for the Marriott business credit card. I got 5 free nights from this, and I ended up using them for a all-inclusive vacation that I've been wanting to take in Cancun for some time now, and it was very, very heavily subsidized, almost free. The third thing that I've realized since getting in the game is I do overspend on my credit cards. And I know I just said that you shouldn't overspend to reach a bonus, right? So you're like, Josh, what are you thinking? But the logic here is it's not about reaching a bonus that I overspend. It's about the psychological element, I think, of having a card. It's so much easier to take one of these cards here and just swipe it and then just make purchases that way. It's a lot easier to do that than physically taking cash out of one's wallet, handing it over to somebody else. I'm sure this has been proven in psychological studies. I recently checked some statement balances from this month, and they were a little bit higher than I wanted. I do budget my money fairly well, but I don't do it in a way where I'm constantly tracking every single transaction. That is a different conversation, but the point is just have to be mindful of that, and that's something that I really want to work on. And with that said, I've never paid a cent of interest in my life. I've never carried a balance, so that helps. And let's face it, I like these points so much that I'm not going to be using cash or a debit card anytime soon if I can help it. Moving right along, the next thing that I've realized is going to be this hobby takes a lot of time to get into, and it takes a lot of preparation. If you just got your first credit card recently, I would not recommend trying to get another one very soon. Probably wouldn't even get one for the next year. At least build up some credit history, but I'm not a credit expert. I just like taking advantage of credit card rewards. For me personally, I did not get another credit card until 2 years after I had originally gotten the customized cash rewards card. In 2021, I opened up the Alaska Airlines credit card, which has now coincidentally also become a customized cash card. But the point is, I waited a long time, and that's actually helped me quite a bit. Unfortunately, obviously, it delayed my entry into the points and miles game, but it has since fueled it. And I know that sounds strange, but it's because I've taken the time to build up some credit history, and then I was able to go get a ridiculous amount of cards in a relatively short amount of time without screwing up my average age of accounts too much and lowering my score, and generally appearing less risky to the different lenders. Another reason why I think it's totally fine to wait, to take your time with this is odds are if you're getting your first credit card and you were my age, at least when you got your first card, you probably don't have a ton of disposable income. If you do, that's awesome. I applaud you. But for me personally, I didn't have enough disposable income to really meet very many subs at all. I could barely do the $4,000 in 3 months, kind of standard sign-up bonus for something like the Sapphire Preferred. It was not the easiest thing to do, so I'm glad that I did not pick it up when I was like 18. Like, I would have totally missed out on that bonus. And along that, you may not also have the opportunity to travel as much. You may be stuck in school, you may be rebuilding your credit or building up your credit later in life, and you have more obligations. I don't know anyone's situations, so I don't want to speak for anybody but myself. And I know that I was really busy with my schooling. I didn't do any serious travel until I studied abroad and lived over in Europe for half a year, and it all worked out. But that's why I am glad that I saved all of these cards for just a little bit later in life, my early 20s. I know you might disagree with me, but this has worked for me, and so it is my personal experience only. And then lastly, I think this goes without saying on credit card YouTube, but I have to say it anyway. If you have high interest credit card debt, you probably should get rid of that before you get into this hobby, I think. But anyway, I know that's kind of depressing, so let's move on to the next realization. And that is, high annual fee cards are fine, but they should only be considered if you're going to get excellent value from them. I don't think anybody who's just starting their credit journey should be thinking about annual fees at all. I know some people have different opinions on this, but I definitely think that one should be building out their core setup first, and then you can add annual fee cards into the mix if you can use them well enough. I will say though that bank marketing departments have done a number on me. I have signed up for these cards and I'm going to sign up for more expensive annual fee cards in the near future, but I know that I can get an excellent return on all of the credits and get some positive value back from these multi-billion-dollar corporations. And with the travel side of things, I can justify it with all the travel that I take. I go to airport lounges, which are just amazing when they're not overcrowded and when you can actually get into one, but when you can, it just makes the airport so much tolerable. I value these visits at $15 a piece because I think that's kind of like the average of what I would spend. Well, actually, I think it's like what I would spend on the lower end to like get food at Dulles. Yeah, so that's why I value lounges so highly, and it's why I'm willing to cough up a lot of money up front for annual fees. Now, continuing this travel theme, the sixth realization that I've had is just take the trip. I think a lot of people get hung up over cents per point. A little bit unfortunate. I know that it has been played up a lot. Like, if you're not getting this much value from your points, you shouldn't use them at all. And I disagree. I do think that if you have cash budgeted for a vacation and you want to save your points for like a bucket list thing that you're going to do, like a business class flight, then yeah, save your points. Pay cash. But if you're dipping into your budget to pay for something because you were originally going to use points and you've already taken the time off or whatever and the points redemptions aren't as good, still use the points if you can help it. This is where something like US Bank real-time rewards or the Chase Sapphire Reserve 50% boost on your points in the Chase portal come in handy quite a bit because I know that I could get guaranteed value by using those. For me personally, I'd really obviously like to take the trip with points if I can. I am willing to pay cash, like I said earlier, if I've budgeted for it, but if I have flexible dates, I can be like a little bit more picky about the cents per point valuations that I'm willing to take for a trip. Anyway, I try not to sit on stashes of points because you never know when those are going to get devalued. Whether it's a points and miles that you have directly with a hotel or an airline, or a transfer partner that you've been thinking about moving your points out to that suddenly devalues and you're like, oh crap, I can't afford that redemption that I've been looking at for 12 months now. So long story short, take the trip whenever possible. Now, my seventh and final thing that I've learned over the last 2 years is that this hobby takes effort, but it shouldn't feel like a job. I've let credit cards take over my life sometimes, and that is just not cool. I haven't let them take over my life when it comes to paying them off. I do that, but I find myself working myself up into a frenzy trying to figure out the best cards to use for every single thing. And then, what bonuses am I going to do next? What bonus? Like, it's a lot. And yes, I do obsess about different strategies on the internet in videos for fun, but it goes way beyond what I share on camera. This is a very hands-on, active hobby, and if we want to get anything back from it, we are going to have to put in the effort. And I'm lucky in the sense that I like doing this. The effort I put in is fun to me. But there comes a time where we just gotta chill and not worry about every single thing with the credit cards all the time. Anyway, guys, with all that said, I really do appreciate everybody in this hobby, and I've learned a lot from all of you, and I'm just really glad to be part of this community. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on these realizations that I've had, and I know this was a video that was probably geared towards people in my age, but I really do appreciate everybody who's watched this. And as always, guys, I've been Josh, and until next time, take care.